This is the legendary castle in Moszna. It has 99 towers, a secret emperor's passage, and chambers that have been completely sealed off for nearly a century. In other words, this is a place of mystery. In fact, when the castle was built, its progress was so rapid that the locals believed the owner had a deal with the devil. Considering the details like foreboding pointed arches or the undersized guest-only entrances that forced servants to involuntarily bow as they entered formal spaces, it's no wonder that that reputation caught on. But rumors aside, everything about this building is highly symbolic. For example, there are 365 rooms, each representing a day of the year. But what do the towers symbolize? Why would anyone build so many, and what's inside of them? Stay tuned to find out, as today we discover the story of the Moszna Castle, what's below it, and what's above. I'm your host Ryan Sokash, and you're watching It's History on Location. This story begins back in the year of 1896, when an eclectic count was trying to get the attention of the political class. In order to better understand this complex story, I met up with local expert Victoria Ernst, who works at this castle daily and knows the space inside and out.
Everything starts actually with the Winkler family. This was a rich family. They had many miners in Silesia, and they decided they need a castle. Actually, it was just a little hunting lodge when they bought it in 1866. Then the next generation, our Count Franz Hubert von Winkler, and he decided that the hunting lodge is not actually it. He wants something more. Then in June in 1896, there was a fire here at the hunting lodge, and the Count decided to not only build the lodge, but make it bigger, actually to create a castle. So he can show the Prussian aristocracy how important he is, how rich he is, so he can live in a big castle with his family. He wanted to show himself fully to Wilhelm II. He was one of the persons who just got the Count's title. So he needed to show up. He wanted him to come here to Moszna to see this beautiful palace he built and to become one of the closest friends.
It was said that there was a deal made with the devil.
Everything starts with the amount of years in which the Count built this whole castle. Only 7 years. Really short for these days. So many people who lived here around the villages said it's impossible. How he could do that? He must needed some powers, yeah. And they said it's the devil himself. He made a pact. And our Count was a really humorous guy. He thought, okay, I'm not saying no, I will say yes. And on our external walls, he built a lot of ornaments or creatures, like scary ones, to say, I like the devil, yeah, I like this kind of thing. Don't go near to my castle. He said, yes, I built the castle with the help of the devil. One of the points of the pact is that when I die, the only elevator in the castle will stop. Actually, from what we know is that he died in December 1922. And from this time, the elevator stopped to work.
Very suspicious.
This is from the elevator. This is the mechanism, how it works. And this one is the haunted one. So many firms wanted to repair our elevator, but no one actually did. And they all resigned because strange things happened to their families.
Well, considering the curse of this elevator, I don't think I want to spend too much time in here. Well, the construction of the Moszna Castle tells a story of ambition and architectural splendor. Its true essence came alive in its prime, when it became a home and a stage for grand gatherings, as well as a hub of aristocratic culture. What is in the basement?
This was mostly for the servants. They were rooms like the kitchen.
So on one hand, it's clearly a utility space, but on the other hand, these tiles are beautiful, and it still smells like food down here.
Yes, because we still have a kitchen here. For the restaurant needs, previously it was the eating room, yeah, for the Count himself. They were all organized. Today it's our restaurant.
So the Count really thought of everything. Where these boards now are was once a type of rail system, so the servants could push heavy loads around the structure without too much exertion.
We have only one tunnel, which is actually combining the two wings, the west and the east wing. And this was like a short way for the servants to go from one side to the another of the castle and not seen by the Count or the family, the aristocrat.
As we finished exploring the basement, Victoria showed me a communist-era map of the building with an unusual detail in the basement, a detail which leads to a major unsolved mystery.
This one is really interesting. Bakery. It's a room without a door or a way to go inside. We only know there were a chimney, let's say, yeah? And it was a bakery, but why they closed the entrance, yeah? We don't know. They say it's here, somewhere hidden.
When you guys did some excavation and tried to get a camera in there, it was not conclusive, right? It was
exactly
unsuccessful.
We didn't want it to destroy more of the original parts, so we said, okay, let's leave it like that for now.
There are 365 rooms here. One room to signify a day in the year.
This was the idea of the Count himself. He wanted to be special. You cannot find like a second castle like that anywhere. We combine three different styles. So we have the middle part, the oldest part, elements from the old hunting lodge, and this is built in the style of Neo-Baroque. Then we are adding the east wing, which is built in the style of Neo-Gothic. And a little bit later, when they decided, okay, the castle is still too little, they built the west wing, and it's in the style Neo-Renaissance. The middle part, he wanted to rebuild how it was in the past, the hunting lodge. The east wing was, let's say, his fantasy. He wanted to make it fancy. This is the most beautiful wing with the towers, with the ornaments. And the west wing is more like a practical one. And this is the newest one. Here were many rooms for the servants, for example, for the guests which were coming with the Imperior. And we have also rooms for the Wilhelm II himself.
There's a door leading to the office that forces people to bow.
Yeah.
What's the story of that door?
Our Count wanted to have the shortest way from his office to his private apartment. This door was only for him. So he said to the servants, don't use it, it's for me, it's my private ones. But they broke this rule a lot, yeah? Because this was the shortest way, so they could go to the Count, let's say, serve him a coffee or something like that. And after some time, the Count thought, okay, it's actually good. Because when the servants go that way, they need to bow, yeah, in front of the Count.
What's on the ground level here?
On the ground level was, first of all, the main entrance. From this main entrance, you can go in two directions, either to the west wing or to the east wing. The west wing was the part where the guests were invited. They had their rooms. On the east wing, we have the tour which starts with the piano nobile, so the most beautiful rooms in the castle. Let's say it was the showrooms. When you went there, it was first of all the waiting room, or today's cafe. This is the most beautiful room in the whole castle. Everything was there made of sandalwood. You needed to pay a lot of money to have it. And he used a lot of this material in this room. Right next to the waiting room was also the room which balls were organized. It's our today's restaurant. If you go with the sandalwood stairs up, you are on the first floor, and there is actually this piano nobile. So you have the library of the Count. You have room under the peacock, which was previously called the mirror room, where women were preparing themselves for a ball. Then you go to the gallery, which was previously second waiting room. This room has also glass ceiling. This glass ceiling is made with gold. And from this room, you go to the office. The office of the count is the biggest room in the whole castle. It's actually made of 3 parts. The first one is the third waiting room. The second part is when he had his desk, he was working there. And the third part is like a little one when he had a sofa, some chairs, so only a part to relax. And each of this part, it's, let's say, divided by some stairs and some marble columns. And from this office, from the second part, you have, let's say, the short way, like the little door, to go to the golden apartment. In the golden apartment, he lived with his wife. And from this golden apartment, you can go either upstairs or downstairs. Downstairs, you would go to the chapel. He had the idea that under the chapel, he will have a crypt for himself when he dies. But the castle is built on like a territorium which has a lot of water, and to the crypt, water flew. So he needed to build a graveyard in the middle of the park.
Is the graveyard used?
The graveyard is used. There we have our count, his son, his beloved wife, and also the father and the mother of the count.
As the years passed and the owners changed, so did the castle's prime. With neglect slowly setting in, World War II would catalyze a downfall.
Our count died in 1922, and the whole property comes to his son. Son is called Klaus Hubert, and here is actually the black sheep of the family. He spent most of his time with traveling, playing cards, or marriages. He married 3 times in his life. Each of his marriages ended with a divorce. He also couldn't have children, so there was a problem. What happened to the castle and all the properties? Klaus Hubert decided to adopt his cousin Hans Werner. Hans Werner was only 3 years younger than Klaus Hubert. This Hans Werner was the owner of the castle only for 7 years, because then came 1945. The Red Army came here, the family spent their time in Germany, and here were only left the servants. When the Red Army came here, around 90% of the castle inside was destroyed. Here were fires organized. All the books were destroyed. This was the time which hurted the castle the most.
Once the war concluded, a period of stagnation set in, and what came next changed the castle forever: communism.
During communism, they decided to make it government property, and here was a sanatorium. It was completely closed, so people from outside couldn't come here. And then in 2013, they decided to build a new building for the sanatorium, and here a hotel was created.
So now that we have the essential history down, let's get back to the topic of those towers. Just why are there 99 of them, and what do they signify? So, as the story goes, the Count was a prudent businessman who owned many properties. However, the tax law of the day called for owners to pay substantially more upon their 100th acquisition. Hence, the Count, officially on paper anyways, held precisely 99 properties. This is what the towers symbolize: an ability to take advantage of tax loopholes. I should also point out here that the number 99 seems oddly generous, perhaps only possible when including decorative elements as entire towers themselves. So we've ascended to the 4th floor, and now I'm happy to say that we're going to visit our first tower. This is the Little Tower. The environment has completely changed since the time of the Count. In fact, there are very few photos from that time, so no one really knows how these spaces looked, what they were even used for. What's the story with this tower?
And some people say that the sister of our Count, Mother Eva, lived here, that she had a room here. Today it's a room for visiting. On the walls we have films, which were, let's say, filmed here, but we can go even upstairs. And that's, let's say, the smallest stairs in the whole castle. And they are still original.
So this is the tippy top of the Bear Tower, and it's a very confined space, but you can really feel the history here. This area of the building is not typically available for tours. Still, it's a valuable space to visit since, from this perspective, one can appreciate the complexity and detail of the architecture upon the rooftops. So you can indeed get a perspective on the grounds here. Was that lake always there?
Yes, it was always there. They use it probably to paddle with the boats because the Count loved Italy, foremost Venice. So all the park is combined with water canals, which are combined with two lakes, this one and another one in the back. And guests or the family could use a boat and go around and see this beautiful region.
So I see that we're at the absolute top of this tower. And yet there's still one more level, but no stairs or anything. Any idea what's beyond that window?
Honestly, only decoration. It's completely empty. How it was in the past, it's hard to say. We have above us a beautiful ornament of the sun.
After being graced by the views from that tower, I became curious about what was hidden under the roof itself. Unfortunately, our guide was generous enough to show me these restricted spaces in the attic.
This is actually the part of the attic when we use a metal construction. Why do we use a metal construction? Because we are above our today's cafe, previously waiting room. And in this waiting room, we have the heaviest roof, which is made of sandalwood. And this is the most beautiful ceiling at the whole castle. In these squares, you have wooden flowers added to each of these wooden elements.
Beyond the most modernized area of the attic, we passed through a maze of low corridors filled with wooden beams, dead ends, and skylights that I doubt anyone has looked out of for decades. And just when I was on the verge of losing my orientation up there, we came upon a fixture frozen in time. So, this is exactly how I imagined the attic to look, with these kind of winding historic stairs.
These stairs are going to the middle tower, which previously was for sure used. Nowadays, it's completely closed. And at the middle tower, at the top, there was previously a bell ringing as we have them at the church, for example. But we know that this bell was either destroyed or was taken. So currently, this tower is empty.
So these stairs lead up to the tower that's central to the castle, between the two buildings. And if we were to ascend these stairs, unfortunately we can't because they're not in good condition. There'd be kind of a little hatch that you'd pop up, and it'd be enough just to get your torso out, and that would be the size of the tower. But it's very interesting to see it from this perspective. It doesn't disappoint at all.
I told you about the gallery, the golden ceiling, the glass ceiling. Now we can see it from inside. It's a technical space. Right now we are thinking of renovating it, but it was an innovative project in the time of the Count. Under us is a gallery, and it was a second waiting room, and it's a room in the middle of the east wing. So there were no options to add windows. So he decided to make a glass ceiling. Thanks to the roof, sunlight came into the room under us.
So now we're going to ascend the tallest tower, the Boar Tower.
Actually also be named Bison Tower because we also have the bison on the tower. Probably this tower was only built for the water tank. And it was so decorative, hidden. So it doesn't show how functional it is, actually.
It's a really nice surprise that the biggest tower is a water tower. And just above our heads here is a 50,000-gallon tank. And beyond the tank is a doorway to the balcony of the biggest tower. This is actually a pretty good perspective because you can see many of the other decorative towers. It's proof that they're not accessible. My exploration here spanned nearly 48 hours, and after uncovering many of the castle's layers and even spending a night here within its walls, I realized that the true intrigue of Moszna isn't its size or its towers. Rather, for me at least, it's all about the questions that it leaves unanswered. And perhaps that was the Count's point. You see, some of its symbolism is clear, but other elements seem designed to keep us guessing about what the owner's motives were. And I think it's a plausible way for him to keep relevant in the modern day. After all, we're talking about a guy who designed a door that forced visitors to bow as they entered a room. So he might have been self-assured enough to weave mysteries into his architecture to ensure he'd never be forgotten. Well, that, or he had a fantastic sense of humor and just leaned into all the allegations. Kind of like a German Donald Trump or something. But I'll let you guys be the judge of that in the comment section below. Well, we'll leave it there for today, but I thank you all so much for joining us on this adventure. Zamek and Moszna, thank you for having me. If you guys want to see more exclusive content from this episode, check out our Patreon page where we go deep into the attic and reveal things that were probably never shown on YouTube before. Otherwise, until next time, I'm Ryan Sokash, signing off.